Senator Warnock.
Thank you, Chair Bozeman, and congratulations, Mr. Seelig, on your nomination. Welcome to you and your family. I have to say that I think you enter this nomination process under a great deal of pressure. Congress has created a 5-person bipartisan commission to run the agency. Of those 5 seats, there's currently just 1 Republican commissioner left, who by default is the acting chair running the agency. You're the president's second nominee, following opposition from some of the president's richest friends to the previous nominee. I want to follow up a little bit on my colleague, Senator Slotkin's question and ask you, yes or no, do you believe having an incomplete CFTC, including 0 minority commissioners, hampers the effectiveness of the CFTC?
Thank you, Senator. As I mentioned earlier, I do believe that it's important to have a diversity of viewpoints. The CFTC has a vital mission that I intend to confirm.
Is that a yes?
Senator, the CFTC is able to function with a single chairman, as it has been with an acting chairman. But I do believe, as I mentioned, that it's very important to have a diversity of viewpoints.
So you think that this is a good situation that we have a CFTC with 1 chairman, even as we negotiate crypto market structure legislation, which could grant the CFTC new authorities to oversee a $4 trillion market?
Senator, I believe that it's important that the CFTC carry out its mission. The way that it's designed, of course, is that it can function with 1 chairman if necessary so that it can carry out its mission. And I would take that job very seriously if confirmed.
So here's why this is so important. We are currently negotiating this legislation, and many of us who are engaged in these negotiations have called for a provision that commissioners from both parties be appointed for the CFTC to implement any crypto legislation through new rules or regulations. And when I speak to leaders in the crypto industry, they tell me that it's critical to them that crypto laws and regulations have bipartisan support. This is what we're hearing from the industry. So do you agree that having bipartisan support behind new cryptocurrency regulations would help ensure stability and durability of these policies beyond this administration and be better for both the industry and the investors long term, so that you're not suffering from whiplash depending on whether it's a Democratic administration or a Republican administration? Is that a fair assessment?
Senator, as I mentioned earlier, I really commend the efforts of this committee to develop bipartisan crypto market structure legislation. I think both voices in the room are critical to getting this right. And if confirmed as chairman, and assuming this legislation were to pass and be signed by the president, the notice and comment rulemaking process is a great way to get a diversity of viewpoints through comments.
But we're not getting any minority input from the agency on how it would implement such a complex piece of legislation, and that's making this whole process harder and harder. I'm going to turn to another subject matter. Basic consumer and investor protections are the pillars of a sound financial system. Regulatory clarity is needed for consumers who trade in digital commodities. And last week, Chair Bozeman and Senator Booker released a bipartisan discussion draft to regulate digital assets. This discussion draft is an important starting point, but key sections remain under negotiation, including what new consumer protections are necessary to protect consumers from bad actors. Investor protection is critical, and the crypto markets are heavily focused on retail investors. What new authorities does the CFTC need from Congress to ensure consumers are treated fairly, in your view?
Thank you, Senator. As I mentioned earlier, the CFTC has existing authority to police fraud and manipulation in these markets, but bipartisan legislation really can take that to a further level by ensuring that we have market regulation for these markets. So things like registration, examinations of these platforms, making sure that consumer funds are safe and secure, segregation of funds, things of this nature that we have and expect in our markets today. And of course, coming from the SEC, currently working well with the SEC on the disclosure requirements to the extent that there's securities that are being offered in connection with a digital asset, making sure there's disclosure there. All these things can work really well together to making sure that we have a robust and resilient regime around crypto.
One last question. The CFTC is the only financial regulator that is funded entirely by appropriations. And in the Bozeman-Booker discussion draft, they authorize an additional $150 million to the CFTC to hire new staff, improve their technology, and prepare the agency to implement a massive new regulatory structure. Do you support the authorization of $150 million to the CFTC to implement a crypto regime as designated by the Bozeman-Booker discussion draft?
Thank you, Senator. If confirmed, I really want to get in the seat and understand the needs of the agency, so it would be premature for me to take a view on the exact amount and what I support.
So do you support any new funding for the CFTC?
It would be premature for me to take a view on new funding. I really want to understand the needs of the agency. I think, anyone coming into a seat with, many staff, many systems in place, I need to understand the processes and who's there, and then I can make a decision on that.
Well, I think it's an important question, and we've got to have adequate resources in order to protect consumers. Look forward to continued discussion on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. And in regard to that, I think the committee as a whole is with you 100% regarding having adequate funding. And so we've been talking to the administration about that, how important it is. And I'll commit to you that as we go down that path, we'll have a hearing if we need to. And, we're going to make sure that we do have adequate funding. The other thing, too, was also recognizing the importance of having Democrats and Republicans on the commission. And so, again, talking to the administration, working with Senator Klobuchar, Senator Booker, the next step is getting Senator Schumer to actually nominate somebody. And we want to go through the process where, it's not Republicans picking who you want, but you yourselves, Senator Schumer will nominate somebody. So we're also working with him to get the process.
I'm heartened by your commitment to a bipartisan commission.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
And if the roles were reversed, I would be saying the same thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Klobuchar, have you